So, welcome back. We are honored to have Jaybird and Sweetie Bird here with us today. Jaybird is a G. I'm gonna say it wrong, Jay, so I'll let you pronounce it, even though I practiced. A shake tent conductor, and Jay will go over the correct way to pronounce it. So he is Bear Clan and from the Batchewana First Nations of Ojibways, Sault Sainte Marie, Ontario. Sweetie originally is from the Lac de Flambeau Ojibwe community in Wisconsin. Both Jay and Sweetie hold ceremony together. Jay is a pipe keeper, which he inherited in 2010 from the community, from the Batchewana community. Sweetie is a creator, and she is known for her creations, including her ribbon skirts, moss bags, pipe bags, and so much more. Um, they have worked in more nations than we can list off and have offered support to so many tribes. And so just Chimagwich for being here today. And we're so looking forward to this.
Do you want to go first?
Hmm?
Do you want to go first? Who you are?
Oh yeah. So my name is Sweetie Bird. I'm from Lac du Flambeau, Wisconsin. My Anishinaabe name is Ozalabanase Nimkiwagakwe, which means the Yellow Thunderbird Woman. And I am an Nimkibanase Dodim. I am part of the Thunderbird clan.
Adin Anipki Gishkadon and Dishnakas, Bating and Dunji. Pakwando Dim Anishinaabe Jiisikaan and Indao. My name is Thunder Days, and I'm from Bauting. In Ojibwe we call it Bauting. It describes the rapids, the river where we live. But it's Batchewana First Nation, Ontario, which is right at the border of Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. I am a shake tent conductor.
Jeez.
Yeah, Jiisikaan is how you say shake tent. Jiisikaan is a conductor. So I'm a Jiisikaan. I'm an Ojibwe shake tent conductor. That's in a real simplified version. So yeah, we're grateful to be a part of this, to share with. This is actually our first time sharing outside of our Ojibwe nation. We have been working together the last 5 years. I've been working 13 on my own. I started as a kid, hanging around, going to drum night and stuff, and I had met my first teacher. His name is Azalo Ganu. It's a golden eagle, golden thunderbird is his name, Jamie. I met him when I was 4, and he was the head drum guy for our drum at home, which was drum's name was Chinoden. So there was me, and I remember the very first time that I saw that. We have apartment complexes on our reservation, and they were out in the front lawn by the road. And I came down out of our apartment because I heard drum noise. And it was Jamie, this guy Buzzy, he's passed. This guy Clutch. Jesse Yagua, he's a well-known artist from my community. Older guys. And I was just memorized to that drum. I walked over and I wanted to hang there and just watch them, everything they were doing. And that was that was a moment in my life that I remember at such a young age when I was first exposed to that kind of stuff. And I just kept hanging around those guys when they practice. And then the other kids in the community came, and we started singing later. And Jamie would bring us to a lodge. He had a lodge, and in our early teens, he put us up fasting in scaffolds and in the trees, up in the stands. So, and I just kind of did enough to get by then. Ceremony stuff. Like, I'd go help out at lodge and, the fasting, just enough where nobody would say anything, just to kind of keep everything at bay. I was never super serious about being, a traditional person. I never had the aspiration to be, you know, a leader or a healer or anything like that. I just I just did enough just to kind of stay under the radar at home, to keep everybody off my back kind of thing. So um, we were Chinodan, our group was Chinodan until 1996. And then we left Jamie. And that was another tough period in our time in my life. By that time I was, man, I forget how old I was, 20, 19, 20, so somewhere around there. We wanted to start going to bigger powwows and traveling further and competitions and that kind of stuff. We sang not because it was a traditional thing to do for my group at home. We sang because we wanted to be the best. There was no real spiritual element to it. I mean, we did what we needed to do, which was our attitude back then. We did our drum feast. When we had our drum changed from one to another, we did that. We did that. We made our own drums. We used the river to soak our hides, that kind of stuff. And then when there were sweat lodges, we'd all be there, but there'd maybe be two, three of us that would go in. But the other guys would go just because they had to be there, kind of thing. And for our songs, we would go see elders in our community and translate our songs for us into Ojibwe. And so when we left Jamie, that was tough. And, he had been our spiritual guy, or, he was a grown man and we were kids at that time. And leaving him and everything that he had taught us up to that point, that was a difficult decision. So we had left. And so all of us left. All of us left, just him and the drum. And we had a gig at White Earth, Minnesota, a host drum thing as Chinoda. And they had called and said, hey, we still want you guys to come. So we went. We made a new drum, went through that process, but we didn't have a name for it. And we didn't want to come up with any name. So we went to White Earth. We got there on a Friday night. I remember this. And the powwow started at like 7 o'clock at night. And the MC guy just called us guys from Batchewana because we didn't have a name for our drum. So that's how it was the Friday night. And Saturday morning, we were staying at Shooting Star Casino in Mahnomen, White Earth. And this guy, he's passed away now. Ogumaganu. His name is deceased Adam Lucier, really well-known healer in Ojibwe country at the time. Like he was the man. He was at the door. He knocked on the door. I opened it up, and there's that old guy standing there with his pipe in his hand. And he's like, "Hey, I hear you guys need a name." And he came in, sat down, not in the smoking room. Smoked, started lighting his pipe. He lit his pipe, and he's like, "Your guy's name's Bear Creek." And he got up and took off. That was it. He was gone. He's like, "Go get your drum." So we brought it in that room, and then he smoked his pipe, and he's like, "Your guy's name's Bear Creek," and then he took off. So we got to the powwow, and we were sitting down, all set up, and that's when the MC, Bear Creek, blah blah blah. That was the first time that our name was said out loud. And I don't know, if people that are on the Zoom here heard of Bear Creek, or we won every powwow. Every one there is to win. We won multiple times. We were Grammy nominated. all that kind of stuff. I don't know how many CDs are out, dozens. You know, so part of our thing when we first started was, no drugs, no alcohol at the job. You had to be clean. And, we were all like that. But as we started traveling as Bear Creek and the competition singing was up there, we started letting guys in that were not, because they're gifted singers, but they would be partying and stuff. And I did not like that. I worked hard to be there and to stay clean and sober. And it just felt like a slap in the face to me, having guys like that there. So I left, like 2002 was the last time I sang at Bear Creek, and I moved down south, and the beginning of my life change started then. So I'm getting at the first part of my years of my life, as far as cultural stuff goes, my main focus was singing. Singing and being at the drum and powwow life was all we wanted to do. All of us, we didn't have summer jobs. We just powwowed everywhere. Yeah, we were all just powwow bums. Now today, I won't even bring my family to powwows. We don't go, kind of a lot for the reasons I've mentioned, what goes on there and stuff. And that's our personal decision. I just don't want my kids exposed to that, and it's unfortunate that, many people turn a blind eye to that today. And our kids are 6 and 7 going on 8. And I just don't want them to see that's okay, yet. When they're older, they can make their own decisions. But anyway, I got way off track here with this stuff. So that's kind of my teen background, as far as cultural stuff. My family has always been the shake tent conductors for our community since we can remember. And the way shake tent works, Jiisikaan, it's inherent. It's in your bloodline. It's not something you can be gifted. It's not something you can learn. It's in you. You don't have the choice as you're born with that. So there's one in every generation, whether they want to be one or not, they're the one. And for my mom was the one for her generation in my family, and she did not. She left at the age of 4, went to Spanish Ontario residential school, and did not return home till 16 years old. They kept her all that time. So, my grandma would say when she came back that she was never the same. She wasn't that little girl that had left. She had mental issues, and she struggled with drug addiction, prescription pills, and drinking a lot. So my sister, I have an older sister, 5 years older. Niishawswea is her name, Little Thunder. Her name is Karen Bird. And it got so bad that her and me, we were raised by our grandparents. Because my mom was just a mess, her addiction issues, and there was abuse and things like that in the home. All that stuff she brought back from residential school. She was totally disconnected from my grandparents. There was such a void there. They are Ojibway speakers. They didn't speak English at all. Just to give you a background on them, they were skipped. So in their time when they were young, and this was the 40s, my family, our homeland, so our community is in like three different groups around Sault Ste. Marie area, three different reservations, the same band. So Chewickmadong, it's called the Big Bay, Guli Mission is where my family originates from. It's about 30 minutes northwest of Sault Ste. Marie, a little community in the bush. And my family always lived there. And we still have a property there, but we use it as our summer camp now, right on the Lake Spear. So my grandpa was skipped. There was the Indian agent and the Jesuit that ran the small church in the community. And those two kind of policed everybody. If you had to leave to go to doctors, you'd get a slip from them to be in town. They'd make sure nobody was doing ceremonies and stuff like that. So my grandma and my grandpa stayed back. They didn't have to go to school because these guys needed to be fed. My community it's a fishing community, deep water fishing, the Lake Superior. So my grandpa would fish in the summer, my grandma would help prepare. And then in the winter, he would, getting cutting trees down and harvesting wood. So because of their lack of schooling and being out away from the res, they were 100% Ojibwe fluent, and their English was terrible. So my sister and I grew up with them, and our first language was Ojibwe. And the weird thing is, so when all my uncles and aunts and my mom came back, they would speak English, but my grandparents would speak Ojibwe back to them. So it was like you're hearing two at once all the time. They're answering back in English. And it was the same with my sister and I. We were in school and, we'd learn English and stuff and just regular school. And then we'd come home and it would be Ojibwe right till we left again. There would be and my grandpa would never speak English to us. So if he's telling us, hey, go pick up something, and I don't know what he's saying, and I'm standing there and I'm like, I don't know what he's trying to tell me to do. And he would not, break down and tell me in English. He wouldn't. He'd just keep saying it in Ojibwe until I finally figured it out. And I thought at the time, man, he's crabby. He's mean to me all the time. He's just giving me a hard time. He's too strict, But now, they've been gone quite a while. I'm grateful, how they taught me language and how I learned language from them and how I understand the language is so different today than people who are educated at, language from school or college. The way they kind of taught me was kind of tough, but, it was just how it always was. So, and I wish I would have tried harder to speak back with them. So I'm a very fluent listener, and my speaking I could get stuff across, but it doesn't flow like they did. No. So living with my grandparents. So now I'm getting into the story of why I'm here on this session with everyone. I was living with them and so this story I'm about to share is going to be a book, and it's coming out this fall. And so you guys are getting it right from me, narrated for you for free before the book even comes out. You're getting a free narrated version. So I was 7, and me and my cousin decided to ride our bicycles into town one day and go to the museum. We wanted to check out the Ojibwe section of the artifacts and stuff they had. So we go into town and we go up there. I walk upstairs to the Ojibwe section, and we're looking at things, you know, there was a beaded vest and artifacts and things. And there was a glass case with a spotlight shining on it. And I walked up and I looked at that case and there was this pipe sitting in there. And, you know, I tell the story 1,000 times, and every time I do, I get goosebumps, you know. So I look in this case and there's this black pipe sitting there. And it's got silver all over it, inlaid. And my hair stood up on my back of my neck, my arms, and I just felt strange. I said to my cousin, "Come on, let's go." So we left, jumped on our bikes, went back to Rankin, or where we were living, and in our reserve. And I went home to my grandparents. I went in the house and my grandma was cooking, and I said, "I seen a pipe in the museum, makes me feel funny." And she just stopped. She just kind of looked at what it looked like. She asked me in Ojibwe. I said it was black and it had silver all over it. And she said, "Oh, that was Bimzada Nung. He was your relative. That was his pipe. That belonged to him. That's why you feel like that. Now get outside. I'm cooking. You know, I'll call you at supper time." And, you know, and that was enough. You know, my grandma explained it, and okay, that's why I feel. As a kid, I thought that made me feel good. Where I went, you know, playing with my cousin, and I never gave it much thought anymore after that. So, you know, into my teens, late teens, I started dreaming about shaking tent stuff. And when I was 18, I was in Southern Ontario, and there was a medicine guy, and my friend who knew him was going to a sweat lodge. He's asked me to come. You know, "Oh, you can come and sing in the lodge," because I was a singer then. So I went there and I gave that guy tobacco, my assignment, and I said, "I'm having dreams that are nightmares, you know, they're bothering me." So I told him I dreamed about this shake tent in our summer camp that I was describing earlier in Gooley Mission. There's a shake tent by the camp, and I see it moving, and when I walk up to it, you know, it's me in there, but I look all freaky. And I scream and I run away up the driveway and down the road. And I've dreamed that same dream 7, 8 times. And it scared the daylights out of me every time. I always wake up panicked, feeling scared. So I told that guy that dream, and he said, "No, we don't do that anymore. That's old time stuff. You know, it's just a nightmare." I'm like, "Okay." And I felt all right. You know, it's nothing to worry about. Then I just put it behind me and focused on working, you know, driving truck, building a business, that kind of stuff. So in 2000, I had a bad car accident. I was in Syracuse, New York. My sister had had a miscarriage later in life, or in the term, and she was not doing well. So I was going to visit her, and I was almost to the border from Syracuse. I was crossing at Thousand Islands crossing, and I was Watertown, New York, like the last town before you get to the border, like 20 minutes. This lady cut off in front of me. It was January, and I swerved to miss her, and it was all ice. And I went off the road into the median of the highway, and my truck rolled, and I was ejected out of my driver's window. I broke my neck, shattered my shoulder, broke my arm, broke my back in 4 places, and both my legs. And, you know, I was dying in the ICU there, paralyzed. And my family and the people that knew me there, they got these 2 healer guys to come, traditional healers. There was 3, but I only remember 2, but I guess there was 3 there. And they had their pipe and eagle fan, and they were smoking in the hospital. I remember that, but I was all in and out because I was on Demerol and pain stuff, and I knew they were there and they were doing stuff. That's all I remember. And that old guy, he was saying to me, the old guy that was kind of running the thing, he said, you'll be back to work in a year from now. But, here I am all strapped in this bed. I can't even move. I'm paralyzed. It seems impossible. And that guy was right. A year later, I had just finished my therapy. I had to go to therapy every day for like 6 months because I was in that hospital bed for almost 5 months, couldn't move. But everything came back slowly. And a year later, I got my first job driving again. It was a light duty, but that guy was right. And, my focus again was trucking and driving and business, that kind of stuff. So now we'll go on to, it's 2009, a recession in Canada. My trucking business was not doing well. There was no work. My contract that I had, ended. So I had to get rid of all my equipment. I had multiple trucks and trailers. Guys working for me. I sold off everything. And I just felt defeated at that time. I felt like my purpose is done. That was something I was good at and I enjoyed. And all I ever wanted to be. I wanted to be a trucker like my dad was, And I was successful and it was going well. And then all of a sudden it wasn't. And it wasn't from me not working. So, I had to get rid of everything that I'd worked for. And I went back to Rankin. I moved back home. So I go home, I got to get myself back together here. I'm a mess. So here I am back in Rankin, early 30s. What am I going to do with myself? And my cousin, Mike Hodgson, he lived down the road and he had a sweat lodge and he had always called me to ask him to come help him, you know, get the rocks ready or go pick stuff or whatever, help him out. And it kept my mind busy. It just kept my mind busy from thinking too much. And that's why I was there. It wasn't because I was there trying to learn. I was just doing whatever I could to keep my mind from making me go nuts. And, one day I decided I'm going to go back to the museum and see if that pipe is still in there. So I did. I jumped in my car. I went into town. I walked up the same stairs in that museum. I walked into that spot and that case was still there under that same light. And I looked in it and this happens to me every time. I've told this 1,000 times and I still feel the same. I looked at it and I started, this time I was overwhelmed with emotions. I just started crying right away. And I thought it was my life, my failures and everything going on with me. That's okay. It's hitting me. I'm having a breakdown. It had nothing to do with my fight. I thought that's okay. This is my moment. Things are falling apart. And I left. I looked at it maybe 2-3 minutes and I turned around and I down the stairs I go and I'm heading out the front door and the curator seen me. He's all, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No." And I just kept walking right out the door. So I got in my car and went back to Rankin, our community, and I went to the health center. I needed to talk to somebody, a counselor, somebody traditional counselor. And the guy I normally see wasn't there. And there was this other lady there who I've known my whole life growing up. And She was normally somebody that I would not go for advice, traditional advice, but that's all that was there. So I went to her office. I sat down, I give her tobacco, and I told her what my grandma had said when I was a kid about the pipe. And I told her how I was feeling. I just wanted somebody to say whatever to make me feel better in the moment. And she says, those items in that museum don't belong to those, to those non-native people. That stuff belongs to us. It was ours before. So, it wouldn't be wrong if you did a heist. That's not stealing because it was ours before. You know? So I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like, what do you say to that? I just, all I could think was saying was miigwech, thank you. Miigwech. I don't know what else to say. So I got out of her office and I go out in the parking lot and I'm sitting in my car again. I'm like, holy geez, this lady just told me to steal a sacred item from the government, because the museums are owned by Ontario government. She's, felony. She's telling me to steal. And I'm like, and I didn't feel any better yet. So I had $20 in my pocket. I went to the store and I bought a tin of cherry pipe tobacco. And I went right back up there to the museum. I parked on the main street. I remember it's like it happened an hour ago. And I walked in there, and that guy was standing in the door like he was waiting for me, the curator. Non-white guy, non-native fellow. And he's, oh, you're back. And I went to talk to him, and nothing would come out. Like I'm right on the verge of just breaking down. So I handed that out to him, the tobacco, into my left hand, and he put his left hand out, which is kind of protocol. And he took it, and he's all, come on, sit in my office. It's private. So we go in there and sit down, and I said, there's a pipe upstairs that's upsetting me, and I want to talk to traditional people in my community about it. And I said, they're telling me to steal it. And he saw this guy real big, and he's all, well, you just ruined your chances of that. And I'm like, no, I don't want to see that happen. And I said, they'll be talking about it now. And I think you should take it out of that case and lock it in the back, lock it up. And when I said that to him, I felt immediate loss. Like somebody had just died, which was weird because I had no connection to that pipe at all. But the loss that I felt telling him that was devastating at that moment. But, you know, that's the only power I had to help keep it safe, to help it, was to make the decision not to ever see it again. And, you know, in that moment, I was okay with that. Knowing that it would be okay was enough for me. I didn't need to have this. I just wanted it to be okay. So, I'm crying like a fool as this is I'm saying this to the guy in his office. And he said, well, let me show you the index cards and stuff, the history we know about this item. And I'm like, no, I don't even want to know. And I got up because I just couldn't sit there that day anymore. And I left. I got in my car again, and I'm sitting in my car and I'm thinking, man, I'm home and I'm trying to help do good things. And I feel like this, you know, being around ceremony stuff and culture is maybe not the thing for me because I feel worse now than before I came home. Like, this is hard. I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to live like this. So my thoughts were to move, Southern Ontario and go back to driving truck, something I enjoyed. And that's what was my mindset. I wanted to really do that. Again, my cousin Mike was calling, hey, I got people coming over. Can you come and run fire for me? So he kept me busy. And I still wanted to go, but I'd never say no to my cousin. He's a nice guy. So I was just busy, like the daily, helping him with stuff. So 3 months goes by now. I'm at his house helping him as usual. I didn't have a cell phone. 2010, I didn't have a cell phone then. I went from everything to nothing. And his phone rings and it's chief of council are on the phone looking for me. And then Mike's on the phone. He's like, is Jay there? He's like, yeah. He's like, we're in a meeting right now in our council chambers and we want him to come over right now. So he's like, okay, I'll send him over. He hung up the phone. He's like, how long are you going to be? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, what'd you do? I'm like, I don't know. I couldn't think of anything that I did for them to want to see me, And I'm trying to remember stuff that happened a long time ago. Maybe, they're going to give me heck for something. I said to Mike, I didn't apply for any jobs or anything. I don't know why they want to see me. So I drive over there. It's like 2 blocks. And I walk in council chambers and Dean Sayers, our chief, stands up. And I look at the table on the table. Like they're all sitting there, 13 of them. And that pipe is sitting on the table. And I seen it and I just froze. I was like, oh. And he said, get ready, make your pipe bag and get ready because we're giving this to you at Nanabujang. Nanabujang is our ceremony grounds, our spring and fall ceremony grounds for our community. And we're giving this to you and you're going to start helping us with this. And I don't know what to say. I was just kind of shocked. I was really holy, And I just said, okay, I will, I'll do it. He's like, okay, get out of here now. We got business. So it was just a few minutes again. I seen it. And I went home and told my sister. She just hugged me real tight. And we went into her sewing room right away and started working on the bag. And we went to Nanabujang and I fasted 4 days with it and they gave it to me. So we had a bunch of our ex-chiefs were there too. And my family was there. And they gave him to me and we lit him for the first time in many years. We didn't know how many exactly, but at that time, well, let me back up a second. So what happened was the day I left that museum, all upset, the curator there, his name's Kim Forbes. He's passed now. He calls up Dean, my chief, says, hey, there's a young guy in here with a gold tooth all upset about this pipe upstairs. He left. And Dean's all, oh, that's Jay Bird. His family has a connection to that pipe. Yeah, I know about that. So the two of them started the repatriation for it to come to Batchewana First Nation. And the way that works with the government, it couldn't go to one individual. It has to go to the community. So Dean took that to council and he said, we're going to get this pipe back for Jay, but only him. And if there's any argument about this, then we're not doing it at all. Because I don't want anybody fighting over this. It's either we do it for him or nothing. And it was a unanimous, decision. All the council decided that, which is rare because usually it's not like that. But they all, So they decided that. And that's kind of how that first started for me. So the history that came with the pipe was an archaeologist found it in 1923 on Whitefish Island, which is at Bouting, the rapids where I'm from. There was a Hudson Bay outpost there. And it was also the spot where we did our Robinson-Huron Treaty, 1850. So after we signed our Robinson-Huron Treaty, we conformed. You know, we had our negotiations with what we wanted for a community then. But a big part of my community, what they did was, you know, we're signing this treaty, we're going to move in this other direction now, you know, go to school, you know. We didn't know it was going to be residential school, but we, you know, at the time they thought it was a good decision. Hey, we're going to move this way and walk in parallel with our new neighbors here in Canada. So as a sign of good faith, many people in my community, so there was the Indian agent, you know, that did the treaty, what's his name, Robinson, the guy who drafted the treaty, and the church was also part of that. So, you know, everybody registered, and whatever names they couldn't say, they changed it to a French name. That's how some of our names were changed from Ojibwe to French or English. And as a sign of good faith on our part, many people in my community, there was a big hole there dug in the ground. They threw their bundles in there. Okay, we're going to start going this way, you know, Christianity. And, you know, it was a good idea at the time. We were looking forward to good things. So my family, they hid this pipe. They didn't throw it in the hole. They went over on the other side of the island and they made this like house of rocks, like a cache thing. And they put them in there, covered them up, all like a rock pile. So, you know, the river flooded over, couldn't get to it. It was underwater for many years. So 1923, from 1850, when they hid this, archaeologist was doing a dig, you know, because of the Hudson Bay outpost. He finds it intact. You know, the bag and the stem had rotted away being underground, but the pipe was still, and you could see the outline of it being in the bag, but the bag and the wood stem had just turned into black dirt. But the pipe was still, and it was loaded too. There was sema packed in it. So this guy kept it in his private collection, one of his prized, you know, finds. He had other things too. So when he passed away in 1950, his family donated all his private collection to the museum in Sault Sainte Marie. And that's how it got there. And then it stayed there in 1950 till 2010 when it came back out to me. Yeah. So that's that history. So later we found out Benzadanang, who my grandma had mentioned, was the one who made him in 1610 area. 1610, maybe a little earlier. Contact for our area was 1638, was when the French first came. So this pipe was in use 18 years before we even had contact, you know, strictly Ojibwe. Then, you know, and it's with us now today, still doing his thing, you know. It blows my mind being in a community back then when there was not even any contact, how our ceremonies were conducted and people's mindsets and how things were done. This pipe was there and it was a part of that. And that makes me feel good to have that. You know, so his name is Niishawswea Aanikwaadoon, 7 clouds. That means. So when we were at Nanabujang, and we have a slide. We have a slide of Nanabujang. That's I think it's the first one. I don't know if you could show that. Yeah, okay, yeah, so that's him there. And this picture of him right now in the water, see it's kind of like mossy rocks. That is actually feet away from the spot where he was hidden from 1850 to 1923. That spot. So I bring him back there every year, and we put him in the water there, and we just let him visit and stuff. And that's the spot. But this bigger picture, that's him. And that's what I saw. He was actually laying on that side, just like that in the museum. That's what I saw as a kid. And that's what I saw when he was in front of council when I went there. And, you know, they said, hey, this is coming to you. Is there other, what's the next pictures I got on there? Okay, so this is the Bujum. This is our ceremony area I was talking about. That's my wife, Sweetie, standing beside our shake tent. That's Lake Superior right there. So if she would have turned around, this is what you would see right behind her. This is the ceremony area. You know, our teaching lodge in the back there with the smoke coming out, our sweat lodge and food camp and all that stuff. We've been doing our ceremonies there forever. That's always been our spot. So I'm there, and that sweat lodge, you can see that it's that brown canvasy thing there. I'm in there, and there's a bunch of people in there, and I'm sitting beside Dean, our chief, and I'm hearing this name. You know, I'm hearing Niishawswea Aanikwaadoon. We're in lodge, and I'm like, hey, Dean, what does that mean? You know, it's not making sense to me. It's like 7 clouds or something, you know. So I'm like, okay, you know, so we get out of there, and later in the days when we did the presentation, they gave it to me, and we lit them for the first time. So if you could go now, the screen like to me here, I'll show you. Yeah. So this is him. So when I first held them, I started counting these on here. There's 7. These are clouds. There are 4 levels of clouds, and there's 7 that go around. You know, and there's 7 on here too. So I was hearing his name, you know, before I even touched him. It was pretty awesome. And you know, at that moment I just knew, hey, there's a connection between me and this pipe. I had no idea how much of a connection it would be. But at that time, you know, that's all I needed. That was enough. So we lit up and smoked that old stuff. It was kind of horrible. That old Tama, that was like petrified almost. But he lit and smoked, and we, you know, shared them with everybody there. And it was an awesome moment. And so there was a shake tent guy that they had brought in for the ceremonies at Nanabujang. It had nothing to do with me. It was just part of the festivities, I guess you would say. And I decided to go stay that night and go see him. So I gathered a couple of gifts, you know, stuff I had in my car, and I had tobacco. And I was the first one. You know, it starts at nighttime. And I went up to his shake tent and I put my gifts in and my SEMA, and I asked him, told him, you know, my name, my clan, where I'm from. I said, I was asking him things about my personal life. You know, the day was it was a full day for me, just this happening. And I didn't need to ask anything more about that. It was overwhelming. So I was asking stuff about my, you know, where do I move to or work, and, you know, my personal life stuff. And the guy, you know, his tent started to shake, and he says, you know, a turtle's gonna come and everything will make sense. And I'm listening, you know, I'm really putting my ear next to his tent, and I'm waiting for him to say my stuff that I asked, because that wasn't it. you know. He's all, that's it. And I'm like, huh, this guy just took all my gifts and didn't give me nothing. So I'm like, okay, me quit, you know, thank you. And I left. I got in my car and I'm driving home. It was like 2 hours home. I'm like, man, that guy didn't tell me nothing I asked him. You know, like just mumbo jumbo stuff. Doesn't even make sense what he's talking about. He probably does that to everybody, you know. Guy doesn't know what he's saying. Like I really thought that, you know. So about a month later, I was at a sweat lodge in Manitoulin Island, my friends, and he said, hey, that chick tent guy that you seen at Manitoulin, he moved to Wanapate near Sudbury. Here's his address and his phone number, you know, if you need answers or clarification on stuff. And I'm like, yeah, man, that guy never told me nothing. But when we were at that sweat lodge, before that guy gave me the number, I had seen a like a purple blur. It's like a fade thing. It was weird. It was like a blur just coming through the doorway of the sweat lodge. The door was closed. We were in there. And this blur came in and it was like a snapping turtle's shape. And I thought it was my buddy's shaker because he has a snapping turtle shaker he uses for doctoring and stuff. I thought it was his shaker. I'm like, hey, I see your shaker in here. And he's all, no, that's not for me. That's yours. That's something for you, he said. And then that's when he told me about that guy around. So I just went to the guy's house. I never phoned him. I just drove there, showed up unannounced, you know, knocking on the door. He was home and he opened the door and he's, oh, I remember you. You were at Nana Bujang up there. It's like, yeah. And I had my bag with me, my pipe. We're sitting in his kitchen and he's frying up some hot dogs and, you know, bologna and stuff. And he's doing dishes too. We're talking about people we know in common, and he's like my teacher, Albert Ward. And I interrupted him. I'm like, Albert Ward, I knew that old man. It's like his hair's all white, his eyebrows and his mustache was all white, like he was just white as a sheet, that little guy. And he stopped and he moved from the sink and he came and sat down at the table and he was just staring at me like that. And he said, you're that kid in the hospital bed in New York. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I was helping him. I was there helping you. I'm like, whoa, both of us just had a moment, you know, like what? And he said, my manager, my spirits in my shake tent told me that you'd be coming. A young guy with an old pipe, and I'm supposed to help him. He said, I've been waiting for you. I didn't know it was you, you know, from the hospital. So that had happened 10 years before, you know, in New York State. Here we are now in Northern Ontario. And what blows my mind even more is that he was at Nanabujang, which is way up in the bush in the middle of nowhere. How did that guy, how did we meet like that, you know? So, you know, and he kept his promise that the spirits had told him. He helped me. He started teaching me shake tents. Just him and I. We did shake tents every day for the next year, just the two of us, showing me how to start, how to end it, you know, how to control myself, you know. Just the middle part, I don't do. It's spirits do that stuff. It's just the beginning and the ending is all I need to focus on. And he showed me that. And when I had the hang of things, he just left. He's like, okay, you're good. And he just took off. He moved up north and started. And that's where he worked a lot of the times because he was Ojibwe. You know, he was a Ojibwe and Cree. And a lot of his work that he did was in the northern community. So that's where he just took off. He went back to work, and man, I didn't see him for a long time. And then I was on my own. You know, he was gone, and that's when I first started getting calls to go places and do shake tent by myself. And in my book, that's kind of where it ends. I didn't want to get into that whole thing because it was another part of my life that's lots. I wanted to focus on this pipe and me and our story and my family connection and how things are meant to be. That's was my destiny. I had no decision in this being with me, no matter where I tried to live, New York or Northern Ontario, or I had no power over anything it happening. It gave me some time, I think, to do my trucking and stuff and enjoy that a little bit. And then that was enough. It's time for me to do what I'm supposed to do. So it was my community that kind of shoved me into this position. They seen it in me. They knew my family and they knew that I could do this. And the biggest test was there's 3 months when I left the museum all just hurt, and I didn't leave. I stayed and kept helping Mike and council and our chief. They were watching me those 3 months. What's this guy gonna do? Is he gonna take off or is he gonna stay? And I stayed. They were testing me. I didn't even know. I didn't even know anything was happening. They were watching my character and what I would do, and that's when they knew that was for me. So, a lot has happened since then. That was 2010. Now, every Ojibwe community in Ontario, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, I've been to. I've worked at. I work for the tribal office, or the health centers, or all their programming. So, like, it's the community themselves that bring me in the traditional programs or mental health or whatever. And I'm sharing Shikten and helping people, and that has been my life for the last 13 years. That's 100% to what we do. We don't do anything else. We're just traditional healers every day. That's our life now. What else to say about that?
You want to give a little insight on what Shake Tent does?
Yeah. So Jiisikaan, shaking tent for Ojibwe, it was our very first ceremony. It came before Medea Lodge. It came before Sweat Lodge. It came before we even had traditional healers. It came in the beginning of our migration, how we migrated from east to west. It showed us all our stopping points, where to stop. Actually, where I'm from is the 5th stopping place during our migration. Where I'm from, Batchewana, Sault Sainte Marie. It showed us where to go. It showed us where food is. So, because when it was our first ceremony, it kept us healthy spiritually. It kept us healthy physically, helped us find food, told us where to go, how to remain safe. It kept all our spiritual questions answered and kept giving us new information how to survive as a people. It did everything for us. And the way Shake Tent works, it's immediate. It's like right now. There's no time delay. It's weird. It's like an open door to the spirit world right now. So if whatever you're asking, boom, it happens. Like when you're right there. It's overwhelming being at one, and it should be, because that's how they're supposed to be. There's lots of lights, orbs, and stuff, and floating around, and people see all kinds of things. But that's just what it does. That's what it's always done. You know, it's there. It's the shake tent itself is a living spirit. It's a which contains, it's like a vessel for many other spirits to come in, but it's one living one that brings in others. It's the best, easiest way for me to describe that. And you know, the way that we do things, you know, we don't want to know when people come, they want to come to shake, or we go to different communities. People feel the need to take us aside and say, okay, I want to talk to you about this, and this, and things that I'm going to ask tonight. And we're like, no, we don't even need to know. Just come up when it's your time and we'll deal with it right there. Boom. You know, I don't need to know any details. And I actually prefer it that way, because then my physical mind does not interfere with what the spirits are doing and saying. It's just right there. And that's the best way it works for me. You know, and everyone gets their stuff. There's been thousands that have seen us now. So we're well regarded in all the communities we go. You know, the issue that happens lots, it's funding, you know, funding money, and or councils will change and their priorities are different, you know, cultural stuff gets on the back burner, that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's sporadic where we go and when and stuff. Never a schedule, which would be nice, huh?
Yeah, it would.
But it's sporadic. And you know, one time we could be in Ganabajing, Serpent River, and next month we're in Wisconsin somewhere, and you know, it's kind of like that. But you know, there's nothing that it cannot do that the spirits won't allow. It can do anything. You know, people have come, you know, they cancer, you know, they meet loved ones who've passed. It connects them, you know, and that's something it always did for us. You know, grief was something that we were taught, as I can only speak for us as Ojibwe. We learned grief. You know, we had shake tent before contact. And, you know, our protocol was when we start missing our grandparents or our relatives, we just would go see the shake tent guy and we'd visit our grandparents. That's what it did. That's the service it provided, one of them. So our relationships continued even after death. You know, our relationship in our mind, it just changed from a human being, a body, to a light. But the communication stayed open through shake tent with our families. So there was never loss when someone passed. We just understood, okay, now it has to evolve to this level, and we could still stay in contact with our families. And it never stopped. So loss was something in that regard. We were taught that, you know, church came and taught us that. You know, they kind of steered us away from shake tent because it went against a lot of the stuff that, you know, they say. You know, you don't see your loved ones till you go to heaven, and there's a time in your life until you die, you can't have any contact with them till you go to heaven. That wasn't the case for us with shake tent. We always visited them and continued life with them. You know, it was way different. You know, to think again, you know, this guy was a part of that when it was like that. He was there doing that for people that just like now. So, you know, sharing that information with people, even our own people today, it's hard for them to grasp that grief and loss was not a thing. That we had that connection and we just knew that. And showing them that, and that the capabilities of Jiisikaan does that. And it always has done that. It's new. It's new for a lot of our own people even today to learn that again. But it's not you know, it's been, you know, it was kind of a blessing for me not to be so culturally aware. I mean, as far as teachings and legends and protocols and that kind of stuff, because I think that would have clouded my ceremony. You know, doing my shake tent stuff, that information would have been in my mind, and maybe I would have told people wrong stuff. You know, whereas I went just knowing my ceremony only and nothing else. The information that I shared with people was exact how they needed it. And it was stuff that I would know nothing about. I would just be repeating, you know. That's what it does. Here's a good example. My first time, we live out in Minnesota now between Red Lake and White Earth reservations. My first time coming out to Red Lake, you know, back from my powwow days, I knew the drum Yabe, a well-known drum group, Ojibway drum group. They asked me to come out and do a shake tent here. I was just new. And they're like, can you come and help our drum and help some of our singers, you know, where illness and that kind of stuff. And so I came out here. And my first time out here as a shake tent guy and not a powwow guy, that was different. But anyway, so we're setting up my stuff, getting it ready in the afternoon, and we're in this hall in Red Lake, and this old lady comes wheeling in this wheelchair, you know, motorized chair, boom, and she kind of parks against the wall across from me, and I'm setting up my stuff, and everyone was showing up, coming in, and they would give that lady a hug or kiss her cheek, or they'd all greet her. Everyone would greet her. And my helper, I said, you know, guy that was helping me, I was like, man, that old lady must have a lot of kids or big family here, huh? And he's all, yeah, big family. So he was from there. That's all he said. So we're setting up our stuff. And, you know, I went through my spiel about how I got started. And so we started ceremony, and a couple of people came up, and then I heard that chair, you know, up to the shake tent. It's pitch black. We do it at night in the dark. Or if we're in a building, the lights are off and stuff. But I heard that chair going up to the tent, you know, and my helper, he lifts up the canvas, and she had brought some prints material, you know, like cloth, different sizes. And she put like $5 in there, $5 in her tobacco. And then she started off in Ojibwe, like fluent Ojibwe and fast talking. She asked like 23 questions, all about Midaywan stuff, you know, our Miday society things. It's like 23 questions about Miday stuff. And I wasn't Miday at the time. Never been to a Miday ceremony, didn't know nothing about it. And she's asking about all this stuff with like Jiba and ghost dance and all these things that they do at Miday that I knew nothing about. And she wouldn't give me a break, you know. Between her questions, she just kept one after the other. She wouldn't even give me a chance to answer her stuff, you know, so I wouldn't forget. So she finishes, and I just start saying stuff back, a little bit Ojibwe, some English, kind of mixed. But I answered her stuff, you know, and everything I was saying, it didn't make any sense to me. I didn't know anything about what I was telling her. But I was telling her what I was hearing and seeing, what the spirits were showing me. And I answered all her things. And I'm like, man, that sounds like gibberish to me. It doesn't make no sense. She's going to be upset, you know. So there must have been like 35 people there that night. We get done, it's like 2:30 in the morning. You know, lights come on, and I start unpacking all my stuff. And I had two Nikig otter hides hanging on my shit. And that old lady, she's still there. she comes wheeling back up there again, and she asked me in Ojibwe, like, "Is that your midday on? Is it, or, are those your degree heights for midday, sir? Midday lodge stuff?" I'm like, "No, God," I said, I'm not midday." And she looked at Gimme One, my helper. His name is Gimme One. It means rain. But his name's Gimme One. She looked at him and he busted laughing. He started laughing. He's like, "He's not." And then she started laughing too. And she looked at me and she said, "I came here to see if you're fake. I was going to kick you out of here." And I was like, "So that I passed the test?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Don't change anything you're doing. You're doing it right. You're, you're spot on with everything." She was the Midday chief for Red Lake and all of the areas. And she was the big boss for all the Midday people and out here in Western Ojibwe country. She's Wasabik. Wasabik was her name. And Gims. She was she was the one around here that could do that kind of stuff, boot anybody out of here she wanted, or like she was the boss. And Kimmy One there, he knew, he was Midday. He didn't even tell me he was. And he was just in on the joke kind of thing. And that's when I learned that night he was too. I'm like, "Man, how come you didn't tell me?" He's like, "Well, they're like that here. You never know." I mean, everyone's a Midayman out here, and they don't tell you. They don't make a show about it. They don't talk about it. Nothing. You'll see everyone around town, Bemidji here, Walmart, and then you'll go to ceremony. Geez, there's all the people. They're in there. That's just it's different out here. It's so culturally rich, and everybody's so aware that it's just a normal part of life. We're kind of blessed that way here. But yeah, that was my first encounter. That shake tent brought me out here and brought me right to that place right away with that lady. And my mom had passed not long before that, maybe a year. And her and I became close, me and Wasabi. She took my mom's place and she helped me. She really respected what I did, and she used me a lot. She brought my ceremony there a lot to help her people. So, you know, that was awesome. It's been 5 years she's been gone now. I was just talking about her last night. I miss that old lady a lot. When she passed, they had our drum. I ended up going to that lodge too in Red Lake. I joined the Midday Lodge. Not to learn or to have a degree or to be somebody. You go there because you need help. They help you. They keep you healthy and keep you alive. I was at a big drum ceremony with her, and she out of nowhere, she just leaned over and said, "Hey, if you come to Midday, we'll keep you healthy so you can do your work, what you're doing. You can keep helping all people, all our nation." 'Cause she knew I traveled everywhere. And it wasn't long after that I did get sick, like really sick, like cancer sick. And I went and they saved me, they helped me. I went there twice. They helped me with 2 different times with cancer, kept me healthy. That's what that place is for us as Ojibwe people, to keep us healthy. It's not a level or what or it's totally wrong. It's the more times you go there, the more humbling it is. If there's a 65, 70-year-old man who's only been there one time for help, but the rest of his life he's been going there to help everyone else. You know, that old guy's stronger than the person who's, you know, 6th, 7th, 8th degree, you know, who has all the stuff. That guy needed help 8 times. You know, that old man only needed help once, and he's been helping everybody else. That's how it works. That's how it works here. You know, there's other lodges where it's not like that. It's a big hierarchy system, and that's not like that here. Yeah. You know, unfortunately, I was just talking to another midday chief from Leech Lake, Cass Lake yesterday.
Mhm.
A guy named Ginu Gizik. Like I was saying, we were just talking about Anna, and he's like, "Do you remember how high you have to go?" And I'm like, "No, I thought it was like 7, 6." He's like, "You have to go to eighth degree." You know, when he told me that, my heart sank. Like, oh man, I don't want to. You know, because I need a lot of help. They're gonna have to help me lots to keep me healthy, so I can keep doing what I'm doing and be here with my family, my kids. You know, so my day is not about knowing lots. It's about keeping you alive. And then in return, you go back and help someone else who needs you're there to help them. So that goes. So yeah, it's weird, you know. We were just having this discussion yesterday with these guys reminding me what I gotta do, and I haven't. I've been back there in a while since Wasabi passed away. Hmm. Yeah. So we were actually making plans there the other day about going back and getting healthy, staying good. Hmm. I'm using up all the time.
That's okay. It's important the things you have to share. That's what people need to hear,
Yeah.
you know, and experience. I
So
support that.
yeah, you know, Sweetie's awesome. She's an awesome help for what I do. You know, we travel around. So here's an example. Like we'll go to a community. One day we're doing like one-on-one sessions in a room like a doctor's office. And we have appointments, people come and see us, and it could be whatever, you know. And every time when there's ladies that come in struggling with whatever, they're there to see me, but they're looking at her and talking to her, but they're there to see me. So I'm there with my stuff, but they're talking to her. It just helps women who are struggling with whatever. She provides that, and it's man, that's that's something I could not do with women who are nervous or feeling whatever. She adds that other half of stuff, and just all the help and the legwork and the setup and the takedown and explaining things to people. Like she does all of that. And a lot of times she'll say, "Oh, I'm not sure. I don't really do much," but she does. She does lots. She does a lot for what we do. You know.
Yeah, so I'm a lot of the support and the comfort when it comes to ceremony.
Yeah.
Support the people that are coming, support the ceremony, and support Jay and what he does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What else?
I have some more really beautiful pictures that you sent. Do you want me to show
Oh,
you
yeah.
a couple of slides?
Yeah, let's put those on.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So on the left, that's another story too. Those are shake tents right there. That's what it looks like. So this place right here you're looking at is actually Walpole Island, which is near Windsor, Ontario, that community. And what I kind of skipped. So the green one with the blue and the red and the black and the white, that's the one I use all the time. That's normally what I work with. The one beside it That came, when did that come? 8 years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I was at home one time and I was having kind of like a deja vu or a vision type thing. And so I was writing things down, what I was hearing and seeing, and I had a list, a white canvas and a pipe. But I kind of mixed that up. I put white pipe because a week before that, a guy came seeing me for doctoring. I was helping him, and he gave me a huge chunk of white pipestone. So when I was hearing this stuff, I just wrote down white pipe. I had it wrong. It was white canvas, not anyway. And 2 rings, hoops, and stuff, like all the things that are needed to make one of those. How many poles, that kind of thing. I wrote it all down. So I had that chunk of pipestone, and I decided, okay, I'll make that white pipe that I heard that stone this guy gave me. That's what I have to do. So I made this white pipe, and it just sat on my altar at home, with my other sacred items. It just months, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, it sat there, and there was no shake tent, no other tent. And then I was out here working. I was in White Earth, and this elder there, he's passed on too. Jeez, Murphy Thomas was his name. Language guy and cultural guy for White Earth. Oh man. He needed that pipe. It was for him. So I brought it and gave it to him. And as soon as I gave that pipe away to him, then my other stuff started coming clear. So it was for my pipe, not a white pipe. I mixed that up. I just heard it wrong. Make a white shake tent for my pipe. So I thought, wow, how's that gonna work? But I just did it. I put it together, with what they told me to make, and I set up my shake tent. I set up that one next to it, and then when it came time to start, I just put my pipe in that other tent. He wanted his own shake tent, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll see what happens, So it started shaking by itself. He was doing that. My pipe was shaking his own tent. And people were freaking out. They were like, how is he able to shake both of these things at the same time? Because I go in the green one, I'm in that green one. The white one's, doing its own thing. So what happened later, as I became familiar and learning what's going on, people have options. We don't do that all the time, the two of them, maybe once, twice a year, right?
Yeah.
And only in the summer months. We'll set up both. And people who come and they want to ask something, they have the option. They can go to his shake tent or mine and get their stuff. That's pretty neat. I never get to see that because I'm always inside mine. So I'm always asking Sweetie, hey, what was going on out there? What did it look like? And what's everybody seeing? And because I never get to see that. I just see what's in there with me. And her first experience at shake tent, both of those were there. Okay?
Yeah, that was my first experience, was seeing 2 shake tents. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty amazing. And I never, at that time in my life, I've never even heard of shake tents or what it was. But a friend of mine had invited me. And so I went, and that was my first experience, was Niishawswea and his tent together. And then when he came out, I was trying to justify what was going on, I wasn't skeptical because I didn't know what was going on, but I was just like, was he in there like how is he shaking 2 tents? And because they were going like opposite directions, and they were doing their own thing, and there's lights, and the stars in the sky were even like going crazy. It was pretty amazing. you know, there's little red orbs, blue orbs all over and lighting up. Like it was awesome. So I was waiting for him. I stayed until he took down the shake tent, see what kind of tools he had in there, but it was just him. I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. And that began my journey with shake tent, and then with Jay in the ceremony.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So he has his own shake tent. He does. You know, and I like it when he's there in his own. It's just it goes so much quicker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there was times, especially in Walpole, where that picture is taken. There was two different times. One there was 36 people came that evening. It was the whole school, the Ojibwe immersion school. The whole school came, all the kids, and we named all of those kids, like 30 something of them, in one night. You know, and then it wasn't the last time we were there. The time before, it was like 50. How many?
It was the last time. It was 56 or 57.
Can you imagine that? 56 people coming up and asking our stuff one after another, like, and it just went quick. It was fast. Like I was saying, that stuff's immediate. It just boom, it gives them their answer and stuff, and it's detailed information. And it's easy. It comes easy. Yeah. So Walpole, and they really like us there, that place.
The other picture next to the shake tents is
That's
a
here.
little snapshot of where we live.
Yeah, that's our yard. That's where we live. So if you can see way back in the back corner, that bush line back there, we do fasting camps here, spring and fall. It's been 7 years this year, and for me,
For you, yeah.
7 years. So we do spring and fall. People come and go fasting out there. I started that because it was kind of my giving back. You know, when I started that, things were going pretty good. I was busy, you know, a lot of communities going to, things were all going okay. So I would just do that as my help, you know. And it just became a thing. Everybody wanted to come, and now it's our spots, they fill up quick. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I don't, you know, when you see me at ceremony, I look just like this. Regular Harley Davidson shirt on. I don't wear ribbon shirts, you know, special stuff. I don't see any medallions on and things. You know, I'm just there to do what I do and provide that for people and share what I know with them. I don't need people to see.
He used to roll in on his Harley.
Yeah, I ride my motorcycle ceremony, like park it right in there, you know, right close to the fire and stuff. Yeah, but you know, and that's just me, who I am. You know, I want people to know me, not what I do or what I know or who I know. That don't matter. That doesn't matter to me.
So Magwitch, and I know that we have more slides up there as well because we're going to show some of Sweetie's creations. And so I have a question for you both. So we are really excited that Jay and Sweetie are bringing the teachings forward, like these ceremonies forward. And so these ceremonies are available to any community in need. And so when we talk about going for doctoring or things like that, and will you go over, Jay, if someone's looking like the preparation for a ceremony, or like if someone did, for example, want to join in the fast, and maybe if this one's full for next year, Jay and Sweetie are listed on Shaman's directory, so you can contact them there. But is there other ways or other things that people should be aware of when they're coming to you, and then if we can see the beautiful creations that Sweetie's made.
I think one of the most important in the Ojibwe community is tobacco.
First, yeah.
Tobacco first. So when you're asking someone like Jay for healing or questions, we always present tobacco. It's one of our medicines we use to connect with the spirits and to help give back. You know, we hold it in our left hand, which is closest to our heart, because we're putting our heart and prayers into that same tobacco. And that's what we use to connect with the spirits. So that would probably be the number one thing.
So yeah, doing that would obligate us. So we either accept or we don't. You know, let's say you need to come, you're sick, you know, you have illness or mental problems or stuff going on at home or whatever. It could be anything. I mean, we deal with everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you give us your same, we say, okay, we'll help you. Then we go through the protocol, what we need to do.
And it's like a commitment. Once we accept it, we are committed with the spirits and with you to help you. The spirits are committed, and the person giving the asema is committed.
Yeah. Like,
so it's all in that
no
tobacco.
Yeah. Don't do that. And, oh, well, I'm busy next year or something. Like, no. If you're going to do that, do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was sent a question, which is if you would offer your healing work to other tribal communities, like if you would be willing to offer your healing work to other tribal communities. And I believe you all are willing to go where you're called at this point in time. So, like, for example, if somebody wanted or knew of a weekend, like you would go and you could join in and you could support them and bring the Jiisikaan on and provide that ceremony, or the spirit names. If somebody who is not Ojibwe was looking to find their spirit name or receive doctoring, it would be okay for them to present and to receive those things.
Yeah, I mean, it could be communities. We've had it where it was just families or even a group, a small gathering of friends. You know, that kind of stuff. Yeah, we've done lots of that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we've never been out of Ojibwe country as of yet. But, you know,
we've had other people outside of Ojibwe come to us.
Yeah, you know, non-native, doesn't matter what nationality you are, where you're from, or we'll have anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a light, you know, our thing is helping that light.
And some services are over Zoom as well, but for the Jiisikaan, and it needs to be in person, and same with the bone doctoring. So just to clarify, but I would love to see Sweetie's creations, unless there's something more to touch on. So Sweetie, hey, you can go through this process, but I hope you all enjoy the beauty of this work. Which
So it actually started for me a couple of years ago. I needed a skirt, a ribbon skirt, and I didn't have one. So my first skirt was a tearaway skirt where I ripped the fabric and just kind of hand stitched it together and glued on my ribbon. Like that was my first one ever. Mm-hmm. So I talked to Jay, and we got like a beginner sewing machine, you know, just to, you know, get mine and like my kids' stuff done. And I guess people really liked the work, and it just my creativeness started coming out, and I was beginning to do things that I didn't know I was capable of, which it still amazes me once I get in the zone, because I use a lot of my like spiritual stuff comes like drawing. Like if you were to ask me to draw right now, like I'd probably do like a stick man and, you know, but when I'm in the zone with it, like these things just come out. And so those are the moss bags there. And there's some stories and legends behind the moss bags, but in short, we use those, we put the babies in there. And way back in the day, they would put moss in the bottom. That's why they're called moss bags. And that would help when babies would like, you know, pee and poop. They just take it out and change it out. It helps bring the moisture out. And this would attach to, it's called a tikanagan, which is a cradle board. And maybe some of you have seen that. So this is what would actually attach to the cradle board. And there's some teachings behind that also. But these are some of the more contemporary, you know, ones that I do today. And then the next, so that's the moss bag with a baby quilt. And that there is a baby skirt with a little diaper bag. Those are boys' ribbon shirts. And actually our son helps me create
those are his
the style. So he'll tell me how he wants the ribbons to go and stuff. And so he has a hand in that. And then these are some of the other creations that I have. These are the men's ribbon shirt. Well, not even ribbon, but just applique shirts. And a lot of stuff on there.
That was my idea.
Yeah.
Those flaming eagle ones there, that was my idea.
Yeah. And a lot of what comes out and what's represented is a lot of it has to do, I get stories, right? Like when people ask me to make them things, I hold a space for my own creativity. So I get their backstory a little bit, and they give me maybe their favorite colors or the colors that go with their clan and their name. And I use that when I make their stuff, and you know, things come out. And like this would be a Thunderbird. Some of this is my interpretation of Ojibwe floral. So I do that with shirts, skirts, whatever I'm creating. And then I don't know if you want to go to the next one. And these are some of the things that I've made. So I've done some traditional regalia, skirts, pipe bags. I do leather burning, which that I never even knew you could do that. That just kind of came. Yeah, and then yeah, there's a pipe bag that I'd made, and that has a whole story behind it, who that went to. So a lot of what I do has to do with the person ordering.
Yeah, that first one on the lot, that's a firefly. Along with AC, a firefly. That's what that is.
Yeah, and that was my interpretation of a firefly. So that's how it came out that way. And it's cool because a lot of people see different things. Like some have seen a deer in there, you know. Yeah. And then these here, so I breastfed all of my kids, and you know, I used to I would do it anywhere, you know, I didn't care what people said. But when I got into creating things and I was making the moss bags and the quilts, from memory, I designed I call them care covers. And what they do is they cover, and then these are out there anyway, the covers, but I made it so that you can take the cover off and you can breastfeed your baby. You can put it over you and you have cover for you, and it's, you know, something pretty, you know, and you can breastfeed your baby and keep that part of yourself private there. So I'm in support of breastfeeding. Very much so. And I've had communities like the women's and children's programs, cultural programs, ask me to make these in abundance for them. So big orders I've had.
Yeah.
So, and And it's healing for me to do that kind of stuff too, you know, and I'm very much in support of helping out communities. And if they'd like to be represented that way, you know, I'm glad to help them with that. So that's just a little bit about the crafty stuff I do.
I wanted to say Chimagwech, and I was asking if anyone else had any questions. And Jay, what were you going to say?
Same thing. Does anybody have any questions about anything or stuff I could clarify?
Everyone's saying so beautiful and so inspired.
I'll add our kids, you know, 7 and 8, 6 and 8 almost. This is all they know. Ceremony stuff, because that's all we do. They don't know anything else. And that's pretty neat.
Yeah, we live very well nowadays traditional, if you want to say that. We're very much connected with with creation around us, and our kids are growing up with that outlook.
Yeah, it's very we're out in the country here. There's nothing around us either, so it's always we're with the earth every day.
And the animals is a big thing here.
All our pets. Yeah.
Chimagwech, because there's so much to think about and so much I know that I've learned from both of you and from hearing your stories. So just Chimagwech, and it was a huge honor to have you both here today.
Miigwech.
Yeah, Miigwech. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so to close, just thank you everyone who attended today. Thank you so much for sharing in this and for sitting in circle. Well, thank you for being open. Thank you for the ways in which you honored these teachers and for the teachers who came. I know it was from a place of love and gratitude and appreciation for the teachings that you all have and what it meant to actually bring that forward and for the life that you are living. Just thank you so much for everything you're doing in all of your communities. For those who are watching, thank you. And we hope that everyone, including everyone who shared today, connects, because there's ways in which these teachings can also benefit and work together with each of the communities who presented today. So just miigwech, and we look forward to that. And if anyone who is watching is a member of an Indigenous tribe anywhere in the world and feel called to organize a day of teachings with us for your community, please feel free to contact us at earthwisdom@shamansdirectory.com. And to end the day, for our closing, I'm going to sing a song. It is a song that is very, very dear to me. So Chimagwech, everyone, for attending this amazing day of training. It's been unbelievable, and the lessons that we've received are great gifts. And so we say thank you so much on behalf of everyone at Shaman's Directory and for all of the teachers and to our ancestors who have walked with us to bring us to this place and time. So we are going to close with a song. And this song is called Jiisikaan, which means I love you. And the song came about and came to be into being by attending a strawberry fast. And at the end of the fast, there was just so much love that was exchanged. The song was birthed and created. And so we sing the song in 3 rounds. The first round, we're saying I love you and thank you to everyone in the circle. The second round is going to be for everyone who's in this world. And the third round is to Spirit, Source, and the earth to say I love you and thank you. This is a healing song. And so when we're singing it, it's important to pull up on your experiences. And so we sing by grounding ourselves into the earth and into spirit, and we sing with our spirit. So these songs are through spirit, they're from spirit, through spirit, in spirit. So Chimagwech and Jiisikaan. Jiisikaan, 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 Chimagwech. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 ho. Jiisikaan, 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 Chimagwech. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 ho. Jiisikaan, 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 Chimagwech. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 ho. Miigwech, everyone.